Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey everybody, it's Sunday afternoon, and I just wanted to say, hey, welcome to Militia Man and Crew with Patreon, YouTube. We're going to do a little something different. We've done it before. It happens to be an interview with Angel1, and we did that before. And so sit back, relax. It's going to take a few minutes and enjoy, because we're going to go over some things that have been topics that are really clearly important to everybody. So just check it out and enjoy. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Looks like Angel1 and Militia Man are going to have a little conversation about the ongoings from, I guess, for the last week, real close, okay? So it's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy what we talk about, because I think we're all in a good space, and we're seeing some really good things. Welcome, Angel1. How are you?
I'm great, buddy. Thank you. Thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure and an honor, but I want to get right to this.
Let's go. I'm game, because it's been a good weekend, and I think there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. Gosh, where are we? Well, here's what we know from February. In February, there was a massive delegation from Iraq who went to D.C. To talk about the economic reform. And here's what we know for a fact. For a fact, D.C. had told Iraq that they have until June 1 to execute everything, to revalue their currency, to make them international, and to move forward with their monetary reform. Well, June 1 passed. So let me backtrack a couple of days. Let me take you to May 30th. May 30th was absolutely massive. Here's what happened.
Okay.
On May 30th, the Kurdistan regional government, literally, there was a decision in which the Kurdistan regional government was dissolved. Now, Iraq
Gotcha.
had was like a two-headed monster. Okay, so Baghdad has a prime minister, has a finance minister, etc. Well, Kurdistan region mirrored that, and it was unconstitutional. I knew this from the very beginning, that they would need to go back to the constitutional ways of being one government. Well, on May 30th, judge ruled, and now the Kurdistan regional government has been dissolved.
Right.
Their power and authority has been taken from them. They're in a sense like a caretaker government.
Exactly.
They're unable to pass strategic laws, and the Iraqi top court ruled that. And so, they'll no longer have a prime minister. They'll no longer have a finance minister, but they'll be just like every other region in the sense of, or province, in a sense of, they'll have a governor.
Right. The state within a country.
That's exactly it. Now, that was massive.
Mm-hmm.
That was a requirement to take place in order for them to move forward. That happened on the 30th. It's great news. It was great news.
Right. Okay.
Now, May 31, let's go next day.
Sure.
A high-level delegation, let me just say this, the highest level delegation, they arrive in D.C. And the purpose of that visit was to ask for an extension. Remember, June 1 was the hard date. They asked for an extension, and they were in D.C. for less than 24 hours. D.C. didn't even make sleeping arrangements for them. They didn't sleep. They didn't stay the night. They didn't. They got their extension. They got their commands. They got their orders, and they left. And they were done.
Wow.
Well, that same day, CBI stops all transactions from Western Union.
Right. Okay.
And the purpose of that was to take full control of the IQD.
Wow. That's right.
Now, yep. Now, also, same day, May 31, QFS is up and live as of 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, that is not for public use as of yet, but it is up and running. You're going to have some conversations. There may have been some bugs with it, all sorted out as of May 31, right?
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Now, obviously, Iraq got their extension. Okay, so let's get to June 1. June 1 was another huge day. They launched the electronic platform with great success, as you know.
Sure.
We talked about that for a while.
Yep.
And
they did
honestly, their electronic platform is more advanced than ours. I mean, it really is, which is great. I mean, that's what we want, right?
Yes.
You'll also recall that on June 1, an IMF report came out. Now, there's been many thoughts and opinions regarding the IMF report. You and I spoke about this.
Yes, we did.
I think it was a fair report.
Yep.
I think it was a great report. I think that there were some negatives in there, but the reason for the negatives is because they're in a transition.
Right.
That's why. They are implementing some massive changes. And because of that, you're not going to have a bunch of great numbers. For example, you've got oil agreements that have been signed. They have been agreed upon, but they're not executed yet. You've got, what they called a liquidity issue. Well, of course you've got a liquidity issue because they went from multi-currency practice to a single currency practice. Not only that, they went digital. So all of this is necessary for their new currency, for their RV, for them to go international. So, if you don't have a clear pulse on what's happening in Iraq, you would read that report as if it was a bad report. I saw nothing bad on that report. Even the recommendations that the IMF gave, they're fantastic. I mean, on all of the recommendations that the IMF gave, Iraq's already ahead of the game. They're ahead of the game on it, and I'd even say they're rounding their base on a lot of those recommendations.
Sure.
So far, so good. Okay?
Right. Gotcha.
June 3, okay, yesterday. Now, this was interesting to me. June 3, the oil minister comes out, and he says this publicly, loud, all over the media. He says this, hey guys, the cost of a barrel of oil, it's going to be $80 very soon. And everybody's like, what? What do you mean? How's that going to happen? Well, fast forward to today.
Yeah, OPEC, yeah.
Yep.
OPEC says they're going to... Yeah, gotcha. Go ahead.
You've got Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Algeria, Oman, UAE. They all agreed to extend the period of oil production, their cuts, until the end of 2024. Simple supply and demand, buddy.
Yes.
Simple supply and demand.
Yep.
So
keep the price up. Yep, keep the price up over $80. Easy.
That's it, easy. I mean, it's going to go way above that, which is great for us and our investment, right?
Exactly.
But this and all the oil contracts as well. I mean, that means during this time, these countries, OPEC, will be making a ton of money while producing a lot less barrels of oil. Now, let me make this clear. This type of agreement has never, ever been done.
That's what you're saying is that they've never done that far out in time.
No, but not only that, these major countries have never agreed to this either.
Okay.
So there is a lot of strategic things taking place, if you will. There's a lot of people on board, and there's a lot of people in the Middle East heading in one direction. When we first started this investment, you and I talked years ago, I remember telling you that direction was more important than speed. And this here is evident of the unity in direction. And now we're going to see, and we have been seeing, lightning speed because of the decisions and agreements that these Middle Eastern countries have made and continue to make together. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, today we saw this. They just threw down $1 billion towards Iraq so that they can make this massive retail mall. These countries are coming into Iraq because they're all in unison. They want to see the Middle East explode. And that is what is happening right now.
Excellent. One step at a time. And I did see where Prince Salman was started off with 1 billion up to 100. So 100 billion. Yeah.
That's what he said. He kind of teased us, right? And he was like, Iraq is booming. And what's about to happen? They're going to have a quantum leap.
Yes.
Economically.
Qualitative leap too, yes.
Which there's been a lot of countries and delegations saying those exact words. Sorry, I said quantum. Qualitative is the correct word. And the reason why they're saying, all these countries are saying qualitative, and that's because you have Sudani and these ministers stating those exact words. All they're doing is repeating. But see, when those countries come into Iraq, I mean, talk about Iraq having their stuff together with evidence and facts showing them this is where we're going to be shortly, and here's why. These countries are not only believing them, they're giving them investments, they're giving them contracts, they're signing contracts already because they know. See, there's a difference between belief and knowing. Knowing means you've experienced something. Belief means, yeah, there's enough evidence here for me to move forward.
Right.
But knowing means, oh yeah, I've experienced, I've seen something.
Right.
Knowing
Right.
that this is about to happen. So here's my money. And where's the blue pen? Let me sign this contract because it's a done deal.
Exactly.
That's what we see.
Having evidence of what the next stage is, having that evidence will secure the investors to come in. They had to have it, and they're not going to get it. And that's one of the things that the IMF was talking about, I think, in that report, and some of the, not necessarily what you were talking about, but they were saying, look, you are at a stage now, you need to move, and this is because of the fact is that there is that evidence of all the things that they have been doing, but we need to go now. We're not waiting. Your internal needs to get sorted so the external projects, if you will, can play.
That's correct. Yeah. Well said, buddy. Yeah, and we're seeing that. But today's been a huge day.
Sure.
Not that yesterday wasn't a big day, and the 1st wasn't a big day, and the 31st wasn't a big day, and the 30th wasn't a big day. There's been a lot of big days. And literally, it's because we're so close. But today may have been one of my favorites, and that is because Sammy, the finance minister, had some big meetings today. And in those meetings, she met with the Council of Ministers. She met with the heads of major banks, important banks. And today, she actually announced a package of measures and procedures to control the movement of financial accounts. Now, these are major accounts. Now, these are the types of accounts that are used for budget purposes. I'm no longer concerned about the budget.
Sure.
Not concerned about the budget. I truly believe that the budget has worked itself out. Now, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
In DC, the extension was given, okay? And I'm going to stick to the highest level of delegation was there. I'll let your mind run with that. But here's what I will say, that there was always a plan. And what's interesting is Sammy came out today and said this. She said, in the second chapter, we were always going to implement some new packages and different measures. Well, what is the second chapter? The second chapter is simply this, the second half of the year.
Gotcha.
Well, when did the second half of the year begin?
First?
June 1.
June 1,
Yep.
right? Okay.
And what was supposed to happen June 1? They're supposed to be international. They were supposed to be having their rate floating on Forex. A lot of that was supposed to be happening. And they had a different plan for the second chapter than they did the first chapter, if you will.
Okay.
The first chapter was to become international, to prepare for it. And the second chapter was, now that we are international, to implement everything running like we're international, running like the budget is done, running like our projects are, that they were approved to launch. And today we saw her. I mean, we literally saw her talk about these new packages and measures. And she talked about the financing accounts towards the investment account and the current operating account. Those are big accounts. And
yeah, they're totally. They're talking about moving forward in the division of the whole new 3-year budget, operational and investment side. I would assume that's what she's talking about.
100%. Projects, operation, incoming, outgoing. I mean, she's talking about...
Yeah, cross borders, taxation, all that stuff. I mean, it's the revenue streams that they're talking about, going from oil to adding into the cross-border payments, but they're talking about what? Income. From what? All the trade that's coming through the country. It's not just going to be about the oil. It's going to be about all the trade and the goods and the rebuilding, the construction materials, all that stuff. Electronically, they're gonna know how much money they have. And one of the funny things that I laughed about today was, like, you know, if you really think about it, is that they're going to also know how much graft was going on for the last 20 years.
I don't know if they want to know.
I don't think they want to know. And I know that actually was a reality. It was a mind check today. I was like going, you know, that's a lot of money, and that might make some people really mad. But anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't tangent, so go ahead.
Look, if I can title this conversation or title this YouTube, it would be simply this: Iraq going from the third world country that it is to a first world country that it's supposed to be. And in our investment, it's wild. We are literally seeing a third world war-torn country become not just a first world country, but a leader in the first world country. It's mind-boggling. Right. And, you know, I have to remind myself of that statement every so often, because I get so frustrated. Like, why can't they just do this? Why can't they just... Well, listen, we're talking about... It takes a lot more from a third world country to become a first world country. I mean, it was about a month and a half ago that banks were still using pen and paper.
Right. Yep. They were.
A month and a half ago, these banks were still using a pen and a paper. That's the kind of country that we're talking about. So yeah, it's more than pushing a button. It's more than changing a rate. It's more than that. Here's what we do know. We know that Iraq has the value. Iraq is worth it.
Absolutely.
What we're waiting for is simply the rate to reflect it. That's it. The value is there. It's been there. But there's no way the U.S. will allow them to change that rate to reflect the value if you don't know how to handle it. And today, one of the quotes that I love that Sammy says is, she says this: This system, this package of measures, will contribute to improving the quality of banks' financial statements within the framework of applying international standards in auditing, control, transparency, and risk management. That's a first world country statement.
That's a heavy statement, because basically that's telling you exactly what everybody does in the real world. That's what the United States is doing.
First world country world, yeah, exactly.
That's right. That's the top of the pyramid. There you go. And they're going to be that, and they're coming back to their rightful place, because they look at the mediation on a sidebar of what they've done with the inroads between Saudi Arabia and Iran. They're a mediator. That's what they've always been. Back in the 50s, Iraq has always been that mediator, but they are also now going to be a pillar, a go-to place to what? To do business, international trade, from where? The east to the west, north to the south. Everything's happening. It's happening before our eyes. The complexity of this whole thing that we've been going through for all these years is coming to fruition. It's not just about Iraq. I've been saying this for years. It's all about Iraq, but it's not just about Iraq, and that's coming to hold true. That we're seeing all these events, whether it be the European Union, we got trucking, trade coming through, the accession to the TRIP. Forgive me, but the point is that they're going to be building roads. China's going to be building things. The United States is going to be doing things. EU's doing things. All these different countries, Japan, everybody has been coming into this whole scenario to be able to do what? To do trade, to do business, and they're ready to go. The IMF, part of that warning, seems to me have been sort of a shot across the bow. Yes, you're doing these good things. Yes, we have all this. Yes, we like Iraq. Yes, we like all these different things. But the bottom line is coming to the head is that you need to do it, or your opportunities are going to diminish. This isn't Kuwait. This isn't the time frame where they had 32 billion or so ready to go and nothing happened. This is a different scenario. Be careful, get moving, stick with the course. And I think that's a takeaway, in my view, is that giving guidance with pressure. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, and they're not Kuwait. Do you know what kind of countries reconcile countries who lead? You know what kind of countries broker deals? Countries who lead. Mm-hmm. And that is what Iraq has been doing. Kuwait was never that. But this is what Iraq is going to do, mm-hmm. And is already doing. I think one last thing that I wanted to mention,
sure,
regarding the finance minister, Sammy.
Sure.
She had a couple meetings today. All of them were very big. And what a coincidence, right? On the heels of being in D.C. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Mm-hmm. She said this today as well. To your point, the meeting discussed the report on the implementation of the government program prepared according to the priorities of the ministerial platform related to the second chapter of 2023. Second chapter is after June 1. And what did the meeting discuss? The study of priorities for reforming the tax and customs system. See, this was the plan all along, to reform in the second chapter, to reform the second half of the year, to reform after they were international. There was always a different plan after they went international. And they are implementing, well, actually, they're talking about them now, to implement them now, because now is the time. Let me tell you what they're reforming.
Sure.
The tax and customs system,
mm-hmm.
controlling border crossings,
yep,
maximizing non-oil state revenues,
exactly,
as well as following up on plans to reform the banking sector in a way that guarantees an increase in its contribution to the overall economic activity. You and I talked this morning about how Iraq is focusing strongly on small businesses right now. Small business loans,
Yep.
small business applications. Iraq is focusing heavily on small businesses with the purpose of creating a middle class.
Sure.
That's what their focus is. They want a well-rounded economy, and this is the U.S. is doing.
It's awesome. All of these things that you just mentioned are coming to true. The small, medium enterprises, small, medium, and large, they're all going to be a part of this whole process, and they're clearly doing what we're talking about. They're getting ready to go live with it. They have no.
Some of them are already live.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of them are already live. The difference is them not being live or not. See, live, they were supposed to go live to start the second or prior to that, but now they're reforming it. Now they're making some small changes to maximize. And again, why is this? Because there's supposed to be a rate difference that reflects the true value of Iraq.
Exactly.
I'm a little bummed that June 1 went right by us, and there wasn't a rate that reflected the value. However, seeing everything put together, I am extremely confident in knowing that we are extremely close to see a rate reflect the true value that Iraq has. I don't think we're going to have an issue with the budget. I really believe that budget is solved. Some very high people have already mentioned that the budget is 99.9% done and agreed upon. There was some great meetings that took place this weekend.
Okay.
And there were some phone calls that were made across the pond to make sure that those crooked roads became straight and those crooked thoughts became straight ones.
Okay.
And I think we will have no issues with this budget. I don't necessarily think that we'll have it today or tomorrow, but I do believe that it'll be done this week for sure.
Oh, good. And interestingly enough is that and I'm just going to go back a little bit because of the convergences that we've all talked about for like months or weeks. We can see these things and we've watched them progress. Look, if in fact that we had a meetings on the 30th and the 31st, if you look back, that's just a little bit last week, okay? Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, right? What was on the table at the time was what? It was the United States having issue with the U.S. Treasury having a debt ceiling. And so, interestingly enough, that those convergences, we've been talking about this 2023, 2024, 2025 budget have been on the table for quite some time. It was probably close to a month or 3 weeks ago that on a Monday we had the first reading of the 23, 24, 25. I'm just going to call it the budget, but on the Tuesday they did the same thing, that is second reading, and now we're at almost a month out, and we're still talking about the fact that they haven't got it sorted yet. That convergence needed something. The United States Treasury had to deal with what, $32 trillion deal, as far as I'm concerned. It's because of that they needed that. But here again, we got to a certain point. That meeting, potentially, those meetings that were taking place on the 30th, 31st, real close, got us to what? Saturday. They signed a deal, got it sorted, and now we're moving to the next direction. So there had to be some agreements in a sense of, because of the fact is the U.S. Treasury is involved with the CBI. They have been, and we got proof of that. And why? We had the dollar auctions. We know the SWIFT system, the new ISO 20022 has been part of that whole process. And so now we're at that stage where it is in that implementation stage. We know that they talk about the point of sales. We know about that they're actively doing all the institutions in the country, the commercial side. All of that stuff's been started and been done as far as the POS. And that's not just electronic swiping cards. There's more to that, and you know as well as I do, it entails a few things. All of those things have come to a head within these last few days. They're actually explaining that each institution was done within on let's say Friday and Saturday. Then all of a sudden they say there's going to be more in the coming days. And here today, the environmental institution in Iraq, they're hooked up, and so everybody's being hooked up. The only thing that was a lag time that I noticed was some of the talk about the ATM machines was a little bit lagging. Some of the little bit of things that were probably maybe warranted for that there would to be some sort of a hey, we have a few things left to do. So I'm not sure if that falls into the line of the extension that you talked about, but there are some things that suggest that, hey, being a complex process, let's get it right. Let's do it right with everybody the first time out the gate. And if it takes a couple of days or however long it took, if we miss that date of the first, we're still on the same path. The trajectory is to finish the game and do it right. I think maybe you would agree with something like that.
Yeah, let me also bring this up. I forgot to mention this. On June 1, Iraq also purchased 2% of their gold reserves in one day. And we'll see a lot more of that because that's their plan for the second chapter, per Sammy's words.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, because if they're gonna, one of the articles that I read, they said they were going to be layering in trades. That's my words, not the article's words, but that's my gist of what I read, is that they're doing small increments, which makes sense. Look, when central banks move in on gold, they can move markets. That's just the bottom line. But they're smart. They've been around the block. This isn't just their first rodeo. They know how to go into a market and buy physical metal when they need to, and when they do so, markets pay attention. Iraq looks like they've been kind of smart. It didn't do much with the gold price because, frankly, gold dropped from 2060 into the 1940s and 50s. So obviously, when a central bank's buying and the gold price drops, you go, hold on a minute. So there's some smart players out there.
I think it's a good time.
I think so.
It's a great time to buy.
I think so too. Anything under $2,000 might be a logical thing. I'm not a professional advisor or anything like that, but I do like the idea that if you look at a 30-year chart, we've already talked about this in the past. It looks like it's going to be explosive in the future. So, anyway,
I believe that.
Good. All right. Well, any last comments that you'd like to talk about? Really sure?
I'm excited. Some things that I'm looking for is I'm looking for this budget. I'm keeping an eye on Forex. That's literally where I'm at. We've seen some flatline stuff. I do believe that every single citizen inside of Iraq with a Visa or MasterCard logo is connected to Forex. That happened last Saturday when it flatlined. They stopped all trading on Forex. And believe it or not, they stopped it at the official CBI rate of 1310. And when they stopped all transactions, or they quote unquote went dark, anytime there's going to be something done to an electronic system or software, you've got to stop everything. And they did. And when they came back on, you now have Iraqi citizens able to use their Visa or MasterCard outside of Iraq in the current country's currency, and that is connected to Forex.
Okay.
So every single Iraqi citizen is now connected to Forex. So they're also making moves on the international level, that Forex level. I'm keeping an eye on that. I've seen it do some very interesting things these last 10 days. I love it. I have some alerts set on my my laptop and my phone.
Okay.
Because of that. But I'm pretty encouraged.
Good.
I'm pretty encouraged.
Yeah, I think everybody should be. I agree with that.
There should be no sad or pouty faces.
No, I know, and frankly, I'm sorry. These cans that everybody's talking about being kicked, they weren't cans. They were bricks to be moved, and that's what Iraq has done. They moved bricks.
I've never once seen a can kicked during this process. Again, or anybody moving the goalpost.
Nope.
Again, you're talking about a third world war-torn country
yes. Mm-hmm.
becoming a first world country. There's no can, there's no goalpost. This is no game. This is real life.
Oh yeah.
And there are a lot of people, my friends there, are excited and encouraged because their economy is exploding. It is exploding
Good.
now.
Perfect.
Can you imagine what's going to happen when that rate reflects the true value?
Yep.
They can't wait. They're salivating.
Oh, I'm sure. Everybody. I think everybody in the world is. And I'm going to say this, and I could be wrong. The circumstances that we had with our DCs, I called it, the debt ceiling, was resolved, and that means to me that there was an agreement, and what we're seeing is going to be the end game of that agreement. That's just my view.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Always. No. Yeah. It's been good. You enjoy the rest of your weekend on the Sunday evening, and I hope everybody in Patreon and our YouTube enjoy what we have to say, because it's a study that I think we all believe in. I think it's really powerful, and the good part about it is that we back up a lot of everything that we've talked about. Some of it's because of people's backgrounds have specific information, but you can find all of this information that we talk about usually backed up with where we are in Patreon and those other places. So thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it.
You got it, buddy. Thanks again.
Have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Ciao.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.